Roman Reigns has dominated WWE as the tribal chief, holding onto the undisputed championship longer than anyone in modern history. But at WrestleMania 40, his reign finally came to an end at the hands of Cody Rhodes. This loss marked the end of one of the most legendary title runs in recent memory. But if we take a trip back to 2014, the story is very different. WWE was pushing Reigns as their next big star, but fans weren't on board. He was getting booed out of arenas, and no matter what WWE did, the crowd just didn't accept him. After almost a decade with the company, he's finally found something that works, and it's safe to say he's cemented his legacy as one of the greatest of all time. Just like John Cena, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, it took time for him to develop into the star that he is today. So that's why in this video we're going to take a look at what made Roman Reigns the most hated man in the WWE. Roman made his main roster debut in 2012 as part of The Shield, with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. From the start, they tore through WWE, taking out guys like John Cena and The Undertaker. Roman stood out with his powerhouse moves. Seth did most of the talking, while Ambrose was the wild card, so Roman didn't need to do much but look strong. For 2 years, The Shield dominated WWE, and Roman's popularity grew. But when Rollins betrayed the group in 2014, Reigns was left to fend for himself. This is where things started to go south. Rollins thrived as a heel, and Ambrose connected with fans through his unpredictable persona. But Reigns' push as a solo star felt forced. Fans liked him as part of The Shield, but alone, not so much. While Rollins and Ambrose evolved with fresh looks and new entrance music, Roman kept the same gear, the same vibe, almost like he was clinging onto The Shield. It felt too familiar and unoriginal. What made things worse was how WWE booked him during his time with The Shield. He didn't have much to do apart from showcase his physicality, and when fans heard the writers asked for Roman to look strong in victory or defeat, they immediately turned on him. The more WWE pushed him, the more the crowd rejected him. This became obvious when Roman won the 2015 Royal Rumble. Fans were fully behind Daniel Bryan, whose underdog story had captivated them. When Bryan was eliminated early, the crowd in Philadelphia was furious. By the time Reigns won, the boos had reached a fever pitch. WWE brought out The Rock to help shift the crowd's reaction, but even that backfired. Fans cheered The Rock, but their rejection of Roman was so intense that not even his endorsement could save the moment. Backstage, Vince McMahon and WWE management were completely shocked by the hostility. They had expected some negative reactions, but nothing on this scale. The idea had been to eliminate Bryan early so the crowd could cool off by the time Reigns won. But the opposite happened. The fans in attendance felt WWE was ignoring their preferences, and that Roman's victory was a blatant case of the company shoving him down our throats, something the company had tried to avoid by scripting the match differently. Despite the backlash, Vince McMahon stayed committed to pushing Reigns as the next top star, moving forward with the plan for him to headline WrestleMania 31 against Brock Lesnar. But this approach only solidified the divide between WWE's vision and the fans' desires. Reigns was presented as nearly unbeatable, but his character lacked the depth or organic connection that fans had with someone like Daniel Bryan. One of the biggest issues with Roman during his early singles run was his promos. WWE gave him heavily scripted lines that just didn't fit his character. I mean, who can forget this absolute gem?
Little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!
During a segment with Rollins, Roman dropped it, and you could tell he knew he was chatting out of his arse when he said it. It quickly became a meme. Fans were expecting a badass, but instead they got a cartoon character.
Suffering succotash.
It summed up everything wrong with WWE's handling of him. Things only got worse during his 2017 feud with John Cena. We all know Cena's mic work is next level. He embarrassed The Rock on live television, so you can bet he wasn't going to hold back. He ripped Roman a new one, exposing his weaknesses to the world. Cena turned up the heat so much that Roman forgot his lines, and instead of covering for him, Cena publicly called him out.
Go ahead, find it. Go ahead.
saying if Reigns wanted to be the guy, he needed to learn how to cut a promo. It was brutal. Watching Roman struggle made it painfully clear that he wasn't ready for the top spot. WWE tried to mollycoddle him with overly scripted lines, and it highlighted how out of touch they were with Roman's strengths. They could have leaned into his natural charisma and physicality, but instead they micromanaged every aspect of his character. Week in and week out, they fed him to the sharks, and he had no way to swim. In hindsight, it's clear WWE set him up to fail with these awful promos. By the time WrestleMania 34 came around in 2018, Roman Reigns had already headlined 3 consecutive WrestleManias. The fan backlash was still in full swing, with audiences growing more and more tired of WWE's relentless attempts to make him their top star. The main event against Brock Lesnar was supposed to be Roman's big crowning moment, but things didn't go according to plan. The crowd in the Superdome was hostile from the start, booing throughout the match and chanting "this is awful" as it dragged on. What fans didn't know at the time was that Vince McMahon had originally planned for Reigns to win the Universal Championship, but an audible was called mid-match. Vince, reacting to the increasingly hostile crowd, made the decision to have Lesnar retain instead, thinking that having Roman win in front of such a toxic crowd would only make matters worse. Lesnar landed multiple F5s and pinned a bloodied Roman to retain the title. After the match, tensions spilled backstage. Brock was frustrated with the match and the crowd's reaction. He threw the Universal Championship belt at Vince McMahon in the gorilla position. The idea behind changing the finish was to shift Reigns' victory to a more favourable setting. This new plan involved Reigns winning the Universal Championship at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, where WWE expected a less hostile, more favourable crowd reaction. Brock Lesnar, known for his limited WWE appearances and controlled creative input, was reportedly frustrated by this last-minute change, adding tension between him and Vince McMahon after the match. The title was eventually defended in a steel cage match at the Greatest Royal Rumble, where controversy came up again, as Lesnar technically retained, despite Roman spearing him through the cage. This moment still felt like a delayed payoff for Roman's title chase. This entire scenario only deepened the disconnect between WWE's vision for Roman and the fans' relentless rejection of him. Despite his undeniable physical talent, WrestleMania 34 solidified that something needed to change if Roman was ever going to win the crowd over, and WWE protecting him in a bubble just made things so much more worse. In October 2018, Roman announced that his leukemia had returned, forcing him to relinquish the Universal Championship. This transformed Reigns in the eyes of the fans. For the first time, the man behind the big dog, Joe Anoa'i, stepped forward, and the WWE fans showed overwhelming support, setting aside years of animosity. When Reigns returned in February 2019, announcing that his cancer was in remission, the response was nothing short of heartwarming. The crowd erupted with cheers, and Roman was met with welcome back chants. It was a short moment of unity between Reigns and the audience that signaled for a while his real-life battle had overtaken the character they'd been booing for years. However, WWE's handling of Roman's return would quickly lead to a very familiar issue. Almost immediately, Reigns was put in feuds that ultimately did very little to develop his character. His rivalry with Drew McIntyre, while intense, failed to feel meaningful, as it relied on a typical face versus heel dynamic without any significant stakes. It didn't advance Roman's story, and McIntyre was still finding his footing as a heel at the time. The feud with Shane McMahon dragged on, relying too much on tired authority figure tropes. Shane portrayed himself as the best in the world, and it came off stale, with their rivalry stretching for months, often involving other superstars and lacking any true payoff. Similarly, the feud with Baron Corbin was criticized for its absurd booking. The repeated King Corbin segments, including his dog food angle, only highlighted WWE's struggle to find creative and compelling storylines for Roman. Both feuds were repetitive and devoid of stakes, preventing Reigns from evolving his character beyond In 2020, Roman turned heel at SummerSlam, aligning himself with Paul Heyman and fully embracing a ruthless, mob boss-like persona. This wasn't just about turning heel, it was a complete character overhaul. The forced smiles and scripted babyface promos that plagued his career were long gone, replaced with an authentic, gritty and calculated demeanor. What made this transformation work was the timing. According to Heyman, WWE had held off on turning Reigns heel for years because he wasn't seasoned enough. Roman himself, alongside Heyman and even Vince McMahon, had wanted the turn to happen earlier, but they felt that Roman needed more experienced and a more grizzled look to convincingly pull off the role. By 2020, after years of being the face of WWE by force and carrying the weight of that responsibility alongside all the critique, Reigns was ready to become the tribal chief, with Heyman acting as his advocate, similar to an attorney guiding a mafia boss. Together, they created an air of authority and danger that Roman had never displayed before. Reigns wasn't just a top guy, he was now the leader of the bloodline, with his cousins the Usos falling in line as well. And as fans, we finally had something to get behind, not because they wanted a heel turn for the sake of it, but because this version of Roman felt real. He wasn't the corporate puppet anymore, he was in control of his destiny, and his matches and promos reflected that newfound authenticity. This marked the beginning of his historic run as Universal Champion, acknowledging him as a dominant force WWE had tried to make for so long. The reinvention wasn't just about changing his character, it was about giving Reigns the freedom to explore who he truly wanted to be in the ring. With Heyman by his side, Reigns fully embraced this new chapter, and for the first time, fans were ready to acknowledge him in a way that felt genuine. As the months and years rolled on, Roman only continued to develop, and now he's become the complete product. His transformation into the tribal chief not only redefined his career, but also set a standard for storytelling in WWE. His character evolution shows just how crucial authenticity and timing are to forging a genuine connection with the audience. After years of rejection, Roman embraced a character that allowed him to finally control his narrative, turning into one of the most dominant and well-respected figures in WWE history. This reinvention serves as the blueprint for future WWE stars, demonstrating the importance of adapting to fan reactions and evolving personas over time. Roman's run as Universal Champion proved that even the most rejected characters can rise to iconic status when given the freedom to fully explore their strengths. And now that his reign is over, it's safe to say he'll go down as one of the greatest of all time. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then leave a like, and why don't you subscribe while you're here so you can stay tuned for more wrestling content right here on Wrestling Real.